Tariffs may sound like a good idea, but every policy has unintended consequences, and often those consequences outweigh the intended benefits of policies. So in this video, I'm going to lay out why I think tariffs are a net bad for the US economy. First, I think it's really important to say that global trade and economics is incredibly complicated. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to be way oversimplifying the concepts, so please don't blow up the comments if you're an actual economist, okay? Alright, so what is a tariff? It's simply a tax on an imported good. So for the sake of keeping things really simple here, let's take this light bulb. So we'll say the US wants to protect domestic light bulb manufacturers from foreign competition, so they apply a 25% tariff on this light bulb that's imported from China. So what do you think that does to prices of light bulbs? Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that any company paying a 25% import tax on this bulb from China is simply going to pass that price increase on to you, the consumer. Great, you might say. That will keep the US manufactured light bulbs cheaper, and it'll protect US jobs, even the playing field, as they say. But not so much, because if you were a US light bulb manufacturer and you know your foreign competition's bulbs are going to be approximately 25% higher in cost to consumers, it allows you to increase your prices by less than 25%, and you'd still have a competitive edge. So now the tariff has increased the price of all light bulbs for all US consumers. As for protecting US jobs, not so fast on that either. This hypothetical tariff may protect US light bulb manufacturing jobs, but when foreign countries retaliate with their own tariffs, inevitably, let's say on pencils, because if you can't tell, I'm just literally grabbing things that were already on my desk here, it becomes harder for our pencil manufacturing businesses to export their goods. And that means fewer sales and less profit for those affected companies, and then possibly job losses. Here's a real-world example. Trump imposed tariffs on steel of 25% regardless of the country of origin. So these were not targeted to China specifically. He also had tariffs on aluminum for the same purpose, and steel and aluminum are essentially raw materials that are produced from natural resources. These are resources that a country may or may not have large deposits of. In this case, the US cannot possibly produce enough steel or aluminum for its consumption needs, so we have to import some. The results of those tariffs were price increases for consumers on anything containing steel or aluminum, which is a lot of stuff, by the way. The Tax Foundation estimates that these tariffs alone caused a decrease in long-run gross domestic product, wages, and jobs. So sure, it may have protected jobs in the steel industry, which, by the way, only accounts for 0.04% of the US workforce. But that was at the cost of jobs in other industries that were squeezed by those price increases. This gets into a weird combination of protectionism, trying to protect American jobs, crony capitalism, picking winners and losers instead of letting the market, aka you the consumers, decide, and plain old electoral politics. Because those steel jobs Trump was protecting were in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And guess which state was super important to Trump's potential 2020 re-election bid? Yeah, you guessed it, Pennsylvania. I'm not saying that was entirely his motivation, I'm just saying it sure didn't hurt in his calculation. So all Americans took a bath with price increases so that Pennsylvania voters might feel a little more warm and fuzzy about voting for Trump again in 2020. It's kind of gross, right? It's like YouTubers always trying to be cute about asking you to like and subscribe. Oh, and about those pencils. In the real-world example, China implemented their own retaliatory tariffs on our agriculture exports, so this is wheat, I guess. That caused such losses that Trump had to spend $28 billion, or I guess not had to, he just chose to spend $28 billion of your tax money to bail out farmers. Again, because rewarding red states who voted for you in 2016 and giving them some cash to keep them voting for you in 2020, not a bad idea. But it does get worse, believe it or not. So let's talk about competition. Competition is the cornerstone of free market capitalism, and by trying to eliminate foreign competition, we allow domestic monopolies, or at least near monopolies, to exist. So you remember the baby formula shortage of 2022? Well, that happened because the US had severely restricted the supply of baby formula by imposing not only high tariffs on imports, but limits on how much we could import before even higher tariffs kicked in. All of this is to protect the powerful US dairy industry. So don't you think there's a moral problem when we tax baby formula, something millions of parents rely on to feed their infant children, to protect the US dairy industry? Outside of that moral question, all it took was one of the 4 US baby formula manufacturers to have a recall and a plant shutdown that caused a massive shortage. You can learn more about that specific debacle in this video, but for now, just know that our tariff policies, combined with FDA rules and some food stamp policies, essentially created a near monopoly where only 4 companies control the entire US market of baby formula. That's good for those 4 companies, but it's bad for US consumers, and it's obviously bad for babies too. I do feel like I should explain that some tariffs are necessary and good. They can be good tools. When tariffs are used to counter unfair trade practices, like some of Trump's tariffs did on China, or human rights concerns, or to punish state actors like we have with Russia for their invasion of Ukraine, There can still be drawbacks, so it is important to weigh those, but some of these tariffs are absolutely necessary. In the end though, most tariffs are not a good solution. They may provide short-term benefits for some industries in the US, but the negative consequences outweigh the positives.